General Hospital spoilers for the coming week, April 20 to 24, are predicted. What if the biggest threat to Brennan isn't his enemies, but the people closest to the ones hunting him? And what if every alliance we think is forming is already quietly breaking apart? There's something about this week that feels just a bit too unstable to go according to plan. I keep coming back to one central question as I look at where General Hospital is heading next. Are we watching a carefully constructed alliance or the beginning of a collapse that hasn't revealed itself yet? Because on the surface, the idea of Nina and Valentine reconnecting and possibly working together against Brennan feels almost inevitable. It makes logical sense. Shared history, shared enemies, and perhaps most importantly, shared desperation. But what stands out here is not the alliance itself, it's how fragile it already feels before it even fully forms. Let's break that down. The illusion of control, Nina, Valentine, and a plan that might already be cracking. There's something subtle about the idea of Nina joining forces with Valentine and possibly Carly. On paper, it looks like a strategic move, three individuals who understand manipulation, power, and timing. But when I look closer, I don't see stability. I see competing motivations. Nina may want Brennan gone, but her reasons might not fully align with Valentine's. And that difference matters. Because when alliances are built on overlapping goals rather than identical ones, cracks tend to form under pressure. This raises the question of whether Nina is truly committed to the plan or simply using it as a temporary shield. Valentine, on the other hand, operates differently. He tends to think several moves ahead. If he's agreeing to work with Nina, I can't help but wonder if he already anticipates betrayal or even plans for it. One interesting detail is how often Valentine's alliances serve as stepping stones rather than destinations. So when we imagine Nina, Valentine, and possibly Carly working together, it might not be a team, it might be a ticking clock. When family becomes the weakest link, now here's where things get even more unstable. Because if there's one pattern this show repeatedly leans into, it's this. The biggest plans don't fail because of enemies, they fail because of family. Willow actively searching for Valentine to hand him over to Brennan is not just a complication, it's a direct contradiction to Nina's potential alliance. And what makes this particularly interesting is the emotional layer underneath it. Nina isn't just dealing with an external threat, she's dealing with her daughter unknowingly working against her. It makes me wonder if Nina will hesitate at a critical moment, not because she doubts the plan, but because she doubts the cost. And hesitation in a situation like this could be everything. Then there's Charlotte. Charlotte's distrust of Nina doesn't feel random, it feels instinctive. And sometimes, instinctive distrust in storytelling is more significant than logical conflict. There's a possibility that Charlotte sees something others are choosing to ignore. If Charlotte continues to interfere, she doesn't just disrupt the plan, she exposes its weaknesses. And then we have Jocelyn. Jocelyn, searching for Valentine for her own reasons, adds another unpredictable layer. She's not aligned with Nina, she's not aligned with Valentine, and she's not necessarily aligned with Carly's broader strategy either. That kind of independence can be dangerous. Because unpredictable players don't just complicate plans, they unravel them. So now, instead of one unified front against Brennan, what we might actually be seeing is multiple intersecting agendas, all colliding at the worst possible time. A pattern emerges, plans that fail from within. If I step back and look at the bigger picture, a pattern starts to form. Every key player involved in this potential takedown of Brennan is being undermined by someone close to them. Nina Willow, Valentine Charlotte, Carly Jocelyn. That symmetry feels intentional. And when storytelling creates that kind of mirrored conflict, it usually means one thing. The plan isn't meant to succeed as expected. This could suggest a deeper motive from the writers, not to show a successful takedown, but to explore what happens when control slips away from every direction at once. A completely different energy. Gio, Emma, and the unexpected variable. Now, shifting gears slightly, there's another thread that at first glance feels lighter, but might not be as disconnected as it seems. Gio and Emma embarking on long-awaited adventures introduces a different tone. But what makes this particularly interesting is the inclusion of Michael James Scott. His presence, even in a meta or cameo sense, adds something unusual. there's a possibility that his involvement isn't just for fan service. Because when a figure like that enters the narrative space, even briefly, it can signal a tonal shift, a break from tension, or a setup for something unexpected. I'll be honest, I find myself wondering if this storyline is being positioned as contrast. While everything else grows darker and more unstable, Gio and Emma represent something hopeful, or perhaps something deceptively safe. And sometimes those safe storylines end up intersecting with the darker ones in ways we don't anticipate. Ethan's return, revenge, history, and unfinished business. Now, this is where things start to feel layered in a different way. Ethan returning and possibly targeting Sidwell introduces a revenge arc that could operate parallel to the Brennan storyline, but I don't think it's entirely separate. Because revenge stories tend to ripple outward, Ethan reconnecting with Christina is another detail that shouldn't be overlooked. Their past chemistry isn't just romantic, it's volatile. And volatile relationships often influence decision-making in unpredictable ways. This makes me wonder if Ethan's motivations are as clear-cut as they appear. Is this purely about revenge? Or is there something more personal driving him, something that could shift his focus at a critical moment? And then there's Sonny. If Sonny and Ethan are indeed aligning for revenge, that creates a powerful but potentially unstable force. Sonny's involvement always raises the stakes, but it also introduces risk. Because Sonny doesn't always operate with restraint. So now we have multiple revenge-driven arcs potentially unfolding at the same time. And when revenge becomes the driving force across multiple characters, coordination tends to fall apart. The Brooke Lynn situation, a different kind of collapse. Then we move into something that feels more grounded, but no less significant. Brooke Lynn potentially being arrested for a hit and run introduces legal consequences that ripple outward. But what stands out here is not just the crime, it's the cover-up. Because Tracy and Chase being implicated shifts this from an individual mistake to a shared burden. And shared secrets rarely stay contained. Something about this doesn't quite add up in terms of how long this can remain hidden. The more people involved, the higher the probability of exposure. This could be hinting at a different kind of breakdown, not explosive like the Brennan plot, but slow and inevitable. And sometimes, those slow collapses are more damaging, putting it all together a week built on instability. When I connect all these threads, I don't see a single dominant storyline. I see instability, alliances that may not hold, families working against each other, revenge arcs gaining momentum, secrets threatening to surface, and what makes this particularly compelling is that none of these elements feel isolated. They all share one common trait. They rely on trust. And trust, right now, seems to be in very short supply. Final theories, speculative. So where could this all be heading? I'll lay out a few possibilities, but none of them feel guaranteed. Theory 1, the alliance collapses before it begins. Nina, Valentine, and Carly may attempt to move forward, but interference from Willow, Charlotte, and Jocelyn could dismantle the plan before it reaches execution. Theory 2, Brennan gains the upper hand. If internal conflicts delay or expose the plan, Brennan might not just survive, he could turn the situation to his advantage. Theory 3, parallel revenge stories collide. Ethan and Sonny's actions might intersect with the Brennan storyline in unexpected ways, creating chaos rather than resolution. Theory 4, the real damage comes from secrets. Brooke Lynn's situation could escalate at the worst possible moment, distracting key players and shifting priorities entirely. And honestly, I'm not convinced we're seeing the full picture yet. Because when multiple storylines are built on unstable foundations at the same time, the outcome is rarely straightforward. So I have to ask, what do you think? Are these alliances real, or are they already falling apart beneath the surface? This analysis is based on current story developments and remains a speculative interpretation, not a confirmed outcome.